We are back. And I'm sitting on a stool now, and I'm like, hopefully not going to fall over because Kenzie stole my chair to do her makeup. Or do you need me to move?
No, you're fine. I'm just trying to see what I have.
Hold on, y'all.
I'm trying to grab.
I need a different. I might have to put the computer. I might have to put it there. That's where he hides out. I need to give him a bed back there. Give me a second. Yeah, sorry. Let everybody pop in here while Kenzie's getting in her drawers. And then I'll sit down and
making sure I have everything I need. Okay, yeah, you're good.
If I need to move again, I can. It's fine. It's fine. All right. We are back. Let's get going. I'm going to do a quick 30-second intro. I'm still trying to get it to kick out. I don't think it's working. I don't know how to get unshadow banned, to be honest. But we'll see. I'll be right back. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, cat lady. It's been, the shadow banning thing is really interesting. Like, notifications don't work. They say it's to, like, some of the content. I actually hid a few things, or not hid them. I put them on members only, I think, to see if it would do something. Nothing changed. So I don't really know. I might have to reach out to YouTube and ask them, but we'll see. Hey, Running Bear, Clover, Netflow, Peas, Cat Lady, Armored Tinker's wife again. Thank you guys for becoming members of the Cabana. Yes. Okay. So this is going to be really heavy content. So I'm going to start off with a heavy trigger warning. I actually do have the scroller. If you are not in a good mental space, this is probably not going to be the live for you, because we are going to be reading the victims' statements in this lawsuit, and they are heavy. They are extremely heavy. So please understand that it is heavy. So I'm going to open with this statement though. And I'm actually going to pull them on the screen so you guys can read through them. I will probably use pseudonyms and synonyms for some of the words that they use in this, but you can see full context. And again, please understand that this is a very triggering conversation for victims and non-victims. We are not doing this to shame any victims. These are allegations. These are not criminal allegations. These are a civil lawsuit. This is a civil lawsuit at this point in time. And if it changes, I will let you know. Hi, baby. Bring me your toy. Bring me your baby. Come here. The crew's all here. There's one. I don't know where they are. Come here. Come here, little one. Come here. There's Eclipse. I know. Long time no see. Hey, Kay. Zoya. Yes. Netflow, she does. Yep. She gets Botox for migraines. You've gone them twice now?
Yeah.
Do you think it helped a lot?
Oh, yeah. Way better than.
Yeah, she gets great benefit from it. We'll talk about all that soon. I haven't updated you guys on what's going on there, and we'll talk about it. Things have been crazy, but hopefully in a good way, like it'll give some answers. Okay, so we've read through, if you missed the first part of the lawsuit, we did read through the first part of the lawsuit and we stopped at the victim statements. So we are going to be going through the victim statements, but I want to read you an excerpt from the initial lawsuit so you kind of understand that this is not, I'm not doing this to shame the victims. We are not victim blaming anybody. We are bringing it to light because the victims deserve a voice too. Did you get nauseated after the first time? I think you did.
No.
You didn't get nauseated? She's nauseated all the time.
Yeah, I'm constantly nauseated. You want to explain where you got them the first time before I start?
She got them in her neck too.
Yeah, I got them on my shoulders, my lower neck, my back of my scalp, behind my ears, everywhere.
Yeah, she gets them in weird spots, but they really do help a lot so far. She's nauseated all the time though, so it's hard to say if she got nauseated or not. And yes, you guys, once again, my son, My face is lopsided because I have a sinus infection I'm dealing with. So please just disregard me looking like Quasimodo on one side, okay? All right. So again, please understand that these are very strong worded statements. This is a civil lawsuit. These are allegations. And the victims deserve just as much of a voice as Tim Ballard has been given all of these years. He was promoted. I made a couple notes of something last night after I got some of the messages I got. Hold on, let me tell you what they say. I probably don't even understand my own notes after last night. Oh, so one of the last comments in my stream last night was basically trying to cut down on the victims. It was one of those extremist right-wing, and when I say extremist, I shouldn't even say right-wing, extremist propaganda pushing channels that are the conspiracy theorists, the QAnon, the Pizzagate, all of that stuff. And a lot of this has those undertones because these guys were very big promoters of some of that stuff. So one of the things I thought about after I saw that comment was Tim has gone unchecked. His stories have gone unchecked, not vetted, not verified, and ran within the media for years on end. People close to Tim and that have worked with the Department of Homeland Security said that he fabricated even his service record when working for the government. However, he will not sign off on the release of the information for anybody to even vet it. So we have given him a center stage for years to tell lies. Why wouldn't we give the same energy to allowing the victims their day for their voices to be heard? It doesn't make sense to me, but they want to silence the victims because they're still trying to push this as some sort of propaganda that was just to get Tim not to run for Senate. Please go check out my last live on the Tim Ballard situation if you missed that, because we went over Lynn Packer's video from 3 years ago that brings up a lot of these allegations or similar allegations against OUR and unnamed people. Tim was not named in Lynn's as who was being accused of this stuff, but these rumors have been circling, these allegations, for years. This just didn't come out because Tim was going to announce a Senate seat run. Has nothing to do with that. And until people stop letting that be pushed, it's going to continue to silence the victims. And they deserve as much of a voice and to be heard as Tim has had for center stage for all of these years. That was one thing I wrote down. They are working overtime currently to smear the victims in every way, shape, or form, to discredit them, to smear them, because even though they, in these statements, they're listed as initials and the initials are not their correct initials, Tim knows these people. OUR knows these people. Mind you, I got to take you a step back. Tim's one of his closest friends is Utah's Attorney General, Sean Reyes. I'm giving some backstory just so everybody understands where we're at. Sean Reyes, the Attorney General of Utah, is his close confidant, his close buddy, has been in office since Tim started OUR in 2013. These ladies have claimed that they filed complaints previously, that people knew about it and it got swept under the rug. They are trying to shut these people up, silence anybody that is speaking the fact about what has gone on and how many people have been harmed. And you will continue to see it. They will continue to come out and say that and continue to try to smear everything about the victims. That's the only way they can really control the narrative. So let's go ahead and get into it, because this will probably be a two-parter because I have to leave at 3:30. Well, actually, you're going to have to pick them up on your way back because you'll still be coming back. Okay, so we're going to open here. This says, plaintiffs bring these claims using pseudonyms pursuant to protect their safety from the general public and from the defendants, given their propensity to intimidate those who dare stand up to them. These are not the real initials of the victims. Once a proper protective order is in place, plaintiffs will provide their identifying information to defendants. Given that Ballard committed these acts complained of, He already knows their identities, and despite his efforts to blast his face in social media or social and mainstream media, should understand the importance of keeping the identity of this sacred and scared and sexually victimized women private. Hey, B. Tim. Hey, Grandma Sherry. So they have absolutely, there is a lot of fear in this, but these victims want their stories told. They want people to talk about this because Tim has been running unchecked for years. Let me find you one other statement. Hold on. There's one other one in here. Oh, and here they in this lawsuit too. Let me pull that down so where you guys can see that. Hold on. I'm going to switch chairs. This is page 4. Factual allegations. One of the saddest lessons in history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you've given a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. Carl Sagan. That's a pretty powerful quote. And at first I was kind of like, that's pretty interesting to quote. Put a Carl Sagan quote in your filing, but honestly, it's really fitting. Hold on, y'all. Let me switch. Now I got my chair back, so. All right, we're gonna go on from here now. Let me get this pulled up. We did go over all of the beginning stuff already. That is there's a whole playlist of YouTube or Utah controversies on my channel. If you're not caught up, we have gone through a lot of this, and we've got these statements to get through, and then we've got the second lawsuit that's been filed to get through too. All right. Here we go. Again, trigger warning on this. These are very heavy allegations. This is a civil suit. Again, criminal charges have not been filed at this point in time. But please no victim shaming in the comment section. Please do not try to mock the victims. We're going to give them as much respect as Tim has been given all these years to be this hero unchecked. Okay. Exhibit A, statement of WW. On April 19th, 2021, WW reached out to Ballard via Instagram because she was dating a man she thought might be involved in trafficking. WW didn't know who else to turn to about her suspicions, but she trusted that Ballard and OUR were the right resources to report it since they work with law enforcement to fight trafficking. On April 20th, 2021, Ballard responded via Instagram and invited WW to his office in Lehigh to discuss her concerns. As WW came into Ballard's office, she perceived that OUR employees were suspicious and leery of her. WW gave Ballard information about the man she had been dating with whom she had growing suspicions. Ballard told WW to give him the man's phone number and he would give it to his guys to check him out. Ballard then said he noticed from WW's Instagram profile that she was an actress. Actor is what it says. Ballard asked if WW had ever considered going undercover. WW answered no, but that she would definitely consider it. Ballard had WW sign an NDA and told WW how important it was that she never speak a word to anyone, not even friends or boyfriends, because people's lives were on the line. He explained further the gravity and severity of what was at stake in order to protect women and children in the ops. WW was not given a copy of this NDA. Okay, I'm going to insert for a second here, and I will tell you guys when I'm reading. Well, you guys can see it on your screen. So, the fact that she was not given a copy of the NDA is very suspicious to me and seems a little odd. Normally, you're given a copy of documents that you sign, so it'd be interesting to see what the NDA actually does contain. Ballard then proceeded to tell WW that female operators are crucial to OUR's work. Okay, you guys can still see it. Ballard told WW about a tactic they use called the couple's ruse. Ballard explained that they were running into problems on Operation Ops when male operators did not engage in sex acts. He said that if male operators don't touch the women or the children, the traffickers would figure out that it was a sting and would create danger for all. Ballard told WW the couple's ruse came to him by revelation from God. Here we go with my grammar and my talking again, as there was no way he could have thought up such a brilliant ruse. Ballard then told WW that if she would act like the jealous girlfriend, then she could block for Ballard and Ballard would block for her. Ballard explained that WW was like the cock blocker. Again, trigger warning on the language. I'm just going to read what's here, except a few parts. Ballard expanded, I'm assuming they meant to say, by saying that he would take women into couples massage parlors or strip clubs and act as a kinky couple ready to do sexual and deviant things, but that there would be no kissing and no touching private parts, except for his arms around the woman's waist, maybe on your back pocket, etc. And that it would be super safe because there would be a team around the corner watching everybody's safety. Ballard explained to WW that if she agreed to go on an op, she would be part of the communications by watching and reporting on activities surrounding the sting. Ballard told WW that he preferred to hire actors because cops could not act very well, resulting in the traffickers not being fooled. Ballard explained that traffickers can smell cops miles away. Ballard asked WW what she thought, and she responded that she was on board because she was a R survivor herself and felt strongly that she could help women and children. Now, please keep in mind that a lot of these women, unfortunately, were victims previous to this. That does come out a couple of times in this. And he really, in my opinion, preyed on that. Ballard responding by asking, "You are a survivor yourself? Wow, that would be a powerful story." And I have shared with you guys them trying to use one of my personal friends' stories for a part of their fundraising stuff. Thankfully, she never did it, but they tried to take her story too. Ballard then instructed WW to get training, and he would go over more details later. Ballard then told WW that there was a fast approaching operation and that he really needed someone quickly. On April 21st, 2023, Ballard put WW in a text thread with defendant Matt Cooper. Coop is what he's referred to as, just so you guys know. Ballard texted WW from a phone number Ballard instructed her to label as Brian for safety purposes. Another thing, side note of this, Brian Black is his undercover name that Tim goes by. The phone number was blah, blah, blah. Again, these are public documents, so this is all out here. Ballard then introduced WW to Matt Cooper and informed her that she was being considered for an ops position and that she should get a background check in order to attend a survivor's graduation. Ballard further stated that the ops team would meet that Friday around noon, where Ballard would run her through tacticals and finish conversations. Now, remember, this is from 2023. Okay. The movie was released July 4th, 2023. These allegations from other victims had already started swirling at the time. On April 23rd, 2023, WW attended a survivor's graduation. Coop was there with Ballard and WW. Ballard told WW prior that her op name would be Kelly, but then Coop had introduced WW as WW. WW was confused as she was afraid Matt Coop had compromised the op, as Ballard had earlier stressed how serious everything was. WW asked Coop if she was compromised because he had said her real name. Coop responded no and reassured her that she was safe. Ballard told WW to keep track of all of her hours while preparing and working on the op.
I'm gonna leave. And go to the gas station. Do we have gas?
Mm-hmm. Okay, bye. You're just gonna go grab them on your way back, right? It's gonna be a line and they'll be out there. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, sorry guys. Kid needed me. Ballard had told WW to keep track of all of her hours while preparing and working on the op. Ballard understood that WW was a single mom at the time. Ballard asked WW if she could go on an upcoming op because the original girl could not go. WW was moving by herself, so she explained that she could not go on an op on such short notice. Ballard responded by offering to pay for a moving van and movers to help so WW could go. WW felt honored by the generosity of OUR. Ballard told WW that they would be talking a lot because they had to create a relationship to convince the traffickers that they were a couple, so they needed to get to know one another. In some of their training, Ballard brought up the name Hugh V, a person WW actually knew prior to meeting Ballard, who was a huge part of WW's healing from her own abuse. Ballard told WW that Hugh was not to be trusted, along with many other people in his organization. WW was sad to hear that about Hugh, but WW trusted Ballard. Ballard told WW that the other operators would fall in love with him, so he had to change operators often. Ballard also asked WW to never betray him. Ballard mentioned a journalist who wrote a negative article about him, who he said was just out to get him and the cause, but no one believed her and he buried her. A journalist. Ballard then told WW that the text messages needed to be sent via Signal, and everything, including messages via Signal or their regular phone messaging, was to be deleted every night because it was imperative to the safety of the case. Ballard warned that if anything got leaked, it could put people's lives at risk. On April 28th, 2021, okay, they must have the dates up there wrong. On April 28th, 2021, yeah, they've got to have the dates up here incorrect because this is saying 2021. I'm assuming this is from 2021. They have to be. Hold on, let me go back and look at that for a second, y'all, because yeah, they've got to have, that's got to be a mistype in that. Okay, so we start off at 2021 and then they jump to 2023. Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry, just checking it myself because I'm like, wait a second. These are statements, so of course there's probably going to be weird misprints and things of that nature, as we've all seen. Betty's lawsuits can have anything in them. Anyways, okay, we got through that. On April 28th, 2021, WW received an email from Hugh V asking her about Ballard's relationship with her. WW immediately told Ballard about the email. Ballard said his team was looking out for Ballard and testing WW's loyalty to Ballard, and that WW passed. At one of the training sessions, Ballard was briefing WW for the upcoming op. Ballard dismissed the others from his office, telling them he needed to prepare WW for the mission. As WW sat on a couch in Ballard's office, Ballard told WW that he needed to get to know more about WW so that they were comfortable with each other. Ballard asked questions about WW's current relationship, her children, and the trauma abuse as a child. Ballard again said that it would make an amazing story. Ballard came over to sit by WW and kept getting closer to WW until at one point Ballard put his hand on WW's leg and caressed her inner thigh. WW immediately tensed up, but thought that Ballard was testing her and that she should just keep talking as if nothing were happening. WW kept talking as Ballard stroked her neck. Ballard finally got frustrated that she wasn't responding to his advances and asked WW, "Why are you not responding?" WW responded, "Because I know you are testing me." Ballard said he needed to know WW was attracted to him. Ballard asked WW if she was attracted to him, to which WW said, "Not in that way." Ballard asked how WW could convince traffickers of chemistry then. She told him she did not need to practice because that was what she was trained to do as an actor. Get into character when in role, but only on action and out on cut. She explained that she had never practiced chemistry or romance scenes privately outside of being on set in front of camera and crew either. Ballard then stated that this was the practice he mentioned and that WW needed to be attracted to him in order to convince traffickers that they were a kinky couple. Hold on. We got to pause and I got to take a drink because this is going to be a lot. Sorry, y'all. This is wild. We're only a couple pages in, and it's just getting there. Ballard then stated that this was a practice he mentioned and that she needed to be attracted to him in order to convince the traffickers that they were a kinky couple. Ballard told her that he must know she could pull this off, as a prior female op went out on a mission once and couldn't perform. So all those donor dollars were wasted and the mission to save kids failed. In my opinion, interjection here, in my opinion, that sounds like he was manipulating her and claiming that other ops had failed and wasted donors' money because of this operator to kind of intensify the situation. Again, that's my opinion, but at that point, she felt sheepish for thinking she knew better than Ballard. So she told him she would turn it on for just a moment for him to see that as an actor, she could turn it on and then turn it right back off. Ballard agreed. WW approached Ballard in the hallway outside of Ballard's office and put her hand on his chest and spoke to him seductively, saying she could turn it on if she needed to. Then she pulled back immediately. But at that point, Ballard got excited and said, "Oh, good. Okay, you can do this." Ooh. She asked Ballard if there were cameras in the building. He panicked and looked around and said, No, we're good. Ballard continued in his couples roost training, instructing WW that from the moment they got inside a plane, head into the location, inside cars, walking on the streets, anywhere except for the safe house, they were supposed to be in character as a kinky couple because the traffickers have people watching them at every move. On May 3rd, 2021, WW met at OUR's office with hair and makeup artists to teach WW how to apply fake tattoos on Tim and herself for the upcoming Puerto Vallarta, Mexico op. We've all seen the fake tattoos on Tim. The henna tattoos, I guess. On May 5th, 2021, OUR employee Mike Pronetta made all the arrangements for WW to fly out to Dallas, Texas. WW and Ballard stayed in a house in Irving, Texas, so that they could meet with Glenn Beck before flying out to Dallas-Fort Worth to Puerto Vallarta the next day. OUR employee David Jacobs met Ballard and WW at the Irving house and wrote a note to them that read in part, "Go get them, XOXOXO." At Glenn Beck's home, Ballard spoke about how he had to remove the cancer from OUR, that there were many, and that many were out to get him. Beck sympathized with Ballard, of course, sharing his own experiences about how people would try to get him and that he had hit rock bottom with people going through his trash. He told Ballard that he may have to go through that too. Ballard said he had already hit rock bottom when he realized so many were out to get him and had to make all the changes in his company. On May 6, 2021, Ballard and WW flew out to Puerto Vallarta. Ballard went into immediate character from the Dallas-Fort Worth airport to Puerto Vallarta. Ballard was all over WW with his hands on her buttock and his hands wrapped through WW's legs while sitting on the airplane. Ballard and WW arrived at the very large safe house that overlooks the ocean and has a private chef. The secondary team stayed in a second location. WW had her own room and Ballard had his. The next day, while the chauffeur drove Ballard and WW around, Ballard was in the backseat groping WW. The windows were dark, but Ballard insisted that they had to remain in character. On at least one occasion, Ballard's hand got so close to WW's growing area. WW told him that he didn't have to be so close, so he pulled back. Ballard explained that they were going out to find massage parlors. WW asked how she could avoid having to get naked in those massage parlors. Ballard responded by telling her it would be fine if she stayed in her underwear. Ballard said WW could lay face down on the shared massage table and that he would lay face up so they could still talk to one another in their ears. WW expressed concerns to Ballard, telling him that she knew the massage therapist would want her to take her bra off, which she didn't want to do. So she said her story would be that she had a boob job and she could not take her bra off for support purposes. Ballard assured WW that he would help express that, as the escorts may be speaking in Spanish. Ballard is fluent in Spanish, but WW is not. Ballard located a massage parlor, instructed the driver to drop them off. They were then taken to the back massage room where they undressed and got on the table. WW was in a bra and underwear. Okay. I'm going to check on you guys right quick. Everybody okay so far over here? Y'all good. Thank you guys for all being here. Yeah, this is all out of Utah, but they travel. A lot of these incidents happened in other countries as they were supposedly going on undercover ops to all these countries. In the second lawsuit, they talk about Mexico, London. There's some other ones too. Oh yeah, Cash, you missed it earlier. Sis was here and she was cracking me up. We were talking about the tents on the island, and I said something about Helen's explaining it. I don't want to interject that into this. So, okay, continuing on. Everybody okay in the comment section? You guys all good? I know this is really troubling for a lot of people. Hey, Michael, good to see you. This is probably one of the, it gets worse as we go too. Like it gets way worse. So be in mind that it's going to get worse before it gets better over here with this. 2 women came into the room and Ballard started speaking to them in Spanish. The 2 women took their own clothes off down to their underwear too and started massaging WW and Ballard. Okay. Question to the audience right quick. Have you ever had a couples massage and did the masseuses, did they undress? Hey, Halloween baby. Did they fully undress to give you a massage? I've personally never heard of the massage therapist getting undressed to give the massages. Granted, again, they were trying to find traffickers, but I'm just, in spas in other countries, have you ever ran into that? Anybody? Just out of curiosity, because that was something that stood out to me. I was like, granted, they were supposedly going to these underground places. Hey, Daisy. Yeah, that's weird, huh? Okay. Just making sure I wasn't the only one that thought that was odd. Ballard asked questions, which then led to talking to them about a party and him asking for frescas, younger girls. Ballard instructed WW that if the escorts got too close to touching them, the code word was fuck me, to which it was WW's job to convince the women that WW needed to fuck her boyfriend and get the women out of the room. One of the massage girls undid WW's bra and WW responded, "Oh, no," and told Ballard, whose op name was Brian, to tell the women in Spanish why she needed to keep her bra on. Ballard repeated what WW said, but only in English, not Spanish, and the women did not care. Ballard said the code word, and WW immediately pretended to be jealous, telling the escorts not to touch Ballard. WW next said the code word because one of the women went straight for WW's private area. Ballard did not respond to protect her, so WW repeated it again. Again, Ballard did not respond to protect her, at which point WW understood that she needed to get the woman out of their room or she may be compromised and was in extreme danger. As part of the ruse, WW kissed Ballard's neck and rubbed his belly and told the women to leave as she needed to F her boyfriend. However, the women just stood back to watch. Trigger warning for anybody that's a victim. I'm sorry that this is hard to listen to. WW rolled over on top of Ballard so that the women could see that she was serious, as WW was very scared that the women would not believe them and leave her alone. WW told them again to leave, this time with enough anger that the women left. Once the women left, WW realized she was topless on top of Ballard's chest. WW immediately got off and got dressed. A trafficker had shown up and a conversation ensued. WW and Ballard left the massage parlor and WW immediately had a panic attack. Ballard told WW, "You are burning up," as WW was burning up and was shaking. WW could barely walk from shaking about what just happened. Ballard gave her a few moments to breathe, and then they were off to the next parlor. Over the next 3 days, Ballard and WW had similar experiences in massage parlors across Puerto Vallarta. After one such sting in which WW attained some phone numbers of traffickers, Ballard screamed WW's accolades in the car after, saying he couldn't believe what WW was able to do, as she got so many phone numbers that would allow OUR to save so many children. WW then told Ballard that she was sorry about what happened at the first massage parlor, to which Ballard responded that was okay, because he and his other operators would accidentally kiss because they were so in character. Ballard also revealed that they would often sleep together in the safe house next to each other, snuggling, because the ops are so traumatic. Ballard said that sometimes things would happen in his couples roost and he would just have to go take care of it himself. In other words, you guys can see the word on the screen, as things got too steamy. WW told Ballard, that's interesting. Here, if you don't, I'll highlight the word so you guys can see it. That's the one I wasn't reading. Just so you guys know where I'm at. WW told Ballard, that's interesting. That won't be me. At one of the parlors, the female trafficker and Ballard were talking about something, to which the female came directly to WW and grabbed her breasts in a private area. WW said that the code word, trying to play it off, and looked at Ballard for reprieve. Ballard just watched. At one point, said female trafficker brought up a younger female to take her clothes off down to her underwear and turn around for Brian, aka Tim, to approve for an upcoming party. Tim approved, and the young female was dismissed. The older female trafficker did not want to wait for any upcoming party and wanted to partake of WW now. WW immediately knew she was going to be AR'd. Here we are. If she didn't get out, as the female kept grabbing her forcefully, that WW fell on the bed. WW knew she had to get herself out, so she made up a story that there was a meeting that they had to go to. Ballard said, what meeting? WW left Ballard and went outside. Ballard got upset with WW, saying, why'd you leave? We were so close to getting information. WW told Ballard she feared she was going to be AR'd and was upset that he didn't help her. Ballard told her he would never let it go too far, to which WW again felt bad for doubting Ballard and worried she stopped the opportunity for kids to be saved. When they were at the first safe house in between these massage parlor missions, Ballard would answer his door in just his towel and still have her come in and talk about the op. Ballard kept saying, you know I'm clean, right? I don't even get turned on by this stuff you see. I don't even get a stiffy, in other words. WW asked Ballard why he still went on ops when he told everyone he was not doing them anymore. Ballard responded that Elder Ballard, the president of the Quorum of 12 from the LDS Church, that's who Elder Ballard is, just for you that don't know, sanctioned the couple's ruse, and it was Ballard's calling to do the ops. At one point, WW had to go shower and get ready for an op when Ballard said, you can use my shower, to which WW responded, no, thank you, I've got my own. Ballard double-checked with her, saying he would leave the room, and she still said no. Later, while they were eating at the safe house, Ballard confided in WW that things with Catherine weren't the best. WW asked Ballard if Catherine knew about the couple's ruse, to which he said she did. WW asked Ballard if she knew all the details, though, and he responded that she is such a saint, she does not ask questions, as she is willing to do anything to save the kids. WW told Ballard that he should stop doing ops and be home with his family to heal, as his PTSD was very apparent and he needed to rest and just be with his family. The last night in Puerto Vallarta was when Ballard took WW to the strip clubs. Prior to this night, WW had expressed that to Matt Cooper, that she was concerned about Ballard. She confided a bit to him that Ballard had been distracted, worried about her betraying him the whole time, and didn't protect her. Coop listened to her and said Ballard did need some help, but that was the extent. Ballard told WW that she was to block for Ballard, and the goal was to get some girls into the back private rooms to ask questions and get phone numbers. Coop, Matt O, and George, is it Jorge? I don't know how to say that in Spanish, were all these as secondary in another part of the club. WW was mentally, emotionally, physically compromised after what it took to get a couple phone numbers at this club and told Ballard she had to be taken back to the safe house. As WW was leaving the sting, she observed Jorge, I don't know, heading to a back room alone with one of the strippers for what was going to be a pleasure trip after the op. Ballard told WW she had done an incredible job on this trip and had done enough. After getting back to the secondary team safe house, Ballard explained WW was done and had a super successful trip, but that he and a couple others were going to go check out one more spot. They were gone for a few hours with no blocker and no comms. Matt O and a couple other secondary team members were with WW and kept getting angry and worried, saying this isn't right. WW warned Ballard that type of conduct that she saw with Jorge as well would take down OUR. We're just going to call him that because it works. WW told Ballard, either you tell someone or I will. Ballard responded, you can't do that to me, to which WW said, watch me. The next day, Omar and Ballard had a private chat with WW, telling her thank you for letting them know. Omar told WW the rule was that no operator should operate without their blocker, and that can't happen, so he would take care of it. WW also learned that DS was one of the other operators. WW knew DS from her line of work and had a deep affinity for DS. When Ballard found out that WW cared about DS, he told WW that DS had crossed the boundaries and kissed him. Ballard told WW that DS, which is another victim, was in love with him and that she was the one that when he met WW at the very beginning in David Jacobs' office, that he had explained was in love with him, and that's why he had to get new operators. When WW got home, she immediately had nightmares and knew she was re-traumatized. She was also paranoid of being watched or saying anything about it, and her boyfriend at the time, her current husband, was very concerned for her. Ballard continued telling her that he needed her on the next op and that he was super excited because it was this really cool place with an amazing house and boat. WW told Ballard that she was re-traumatized and that it wasn't wise for her to go on another op. Ballard said he would pay for her to go to his therapist in order to see if his therapist could help WW be able to get back out there. Ballard told WW that she made the most difference out of any other operators. WW went to see Ballard's therapist, Kelly McCaleb. Ballard was pretty insistent about her coming back out, and she told him no several times. Ballard told her she could maybe do a secondary, but then after thinking about it, she said no to that too. Ballard then said, well, what if you become the female face of OUR? Ballard knew her dream was to be speaking on stages, so she said, oh my gosh, yes, I could still help the cause. Ballard helped the ruse by telling her that they needed to probably have better training for operators, so was going to have future training for it and to watch for it so they could get footage. And since she had kicked ass on the undercover op and was a survivor herself, this would be a huge thing. Before the training, Ballard texted her in July to tell her that he was pulling out of ops to be with his family. She told him she was proud of him. He had asked for replacement female ops for other operators. She told him she may have someone and recommended DM. WW went to the OUR op training held in Salt Lake City as she believed they were turning things around. They had the cameras follow her around a lot. She gave them an interview too. Ballard told people she would be the face, and this was for speaking. After this training, DM, who did not attend the official training, called WW saying she needed to talk to WW, but that she couldn't talk over the phone and had to be in person. She told her she went to meet with Coop and Tim for being considered for a position, but things happened and she wanted to know if it was normal. WW and others were told to not even talk to one another because of the safety, so WW knew why DM was nervous and scared to talk to her. DM told her Tim had pushed her up against the wall and licked her stomach and then went on a fake op practice at a local club where he was taking pills while his son was there. DM thought it was strange and wanted to know if it was normal. That is when WW snapped and realized this was not normal. WW then started questioning her own experience. WW then called Tim and told him that she could no longer be a part of OUR, even as a speaker. Ballard was frustrated and sad and kept trying to get her to come speak for another year. Ballard also invited her to a separate private meeting no one knew of, and that he was starting to do his own ops. WW didn't go and kept asking the status of the op they went on if they had rescued those kids. Ballard kept telling her it just took time, but they were making progress. DM told WW that she had verbalized to Ballard and Coop her boundaries, that she did not want to do things and didn't need to practice. And then they dropped her. WW wanted to tell Matt Osborne, who's another high up at OUR, of her concerns at the training anyway prior to this, but thought she couldn't trust anyone and felt so small compared to Ballard, as he had told her he would deny everything if she ever said anything and she would be buried. Okay, we're going to continue to go. Did they put that one in there twice? Hold on. They got that one in there on the report. I didn't even notice that when I printed it out. It is twice on there. Hold on. Let's continue to go. That's the first one. I hope you guys are all doing okay. I'm sorry. I know this is a lot. Okay, this one, this gets a lot worse. Yeah, it did get repeated. I was like, wait a second. And I probably have it right in front of me too. Oh yeah, I did catch it. Never mind. I did make a note of it. I've got so many different things going on in my head that I forget. Okay. Are we okay? Everybody doing okay so far? We're going to jump into the second one. There's 5 of these, and then there is a second lawsuit that's been filed, and there's 2 statements with that one, and they are both extremely lengthy too, and it is a lot to take in. So we'll probably take a break between the first 2 for a moment so I can go smoke a cigarette, because this is actually really disturbing to read. Thank you all for being here with me. I'm sorry if this is triggering to anybody, and I feel terrible for these victims. In October of 2021, okay, now this is the statement by DM, who we heard about in the previous statement. In October of 2021, I went to lunch with my friend who was involved with OUR. In the midst of her conversation, I had brought up that I was interested in saving women and children who were victims of violence or sex trafficking. At this time, I did not know that she was involved with OUR. She told me that she may have an opportunity for me to get involved with the organization. We chatted a little bit more, and she told me that she would reach out to her contact in the organization. At this point, I did not know who this person was or anything about the organization. A couple weeks went by, and I was contacted by Coop, aka Matthew Cooper. He is a male operator at OUR who works very closely with Tim. He had told me that they were doing some training, but that they would not be starting a new training course for a while. He asked if I would be interested in being an actress for the other operators to practice scenarios with. I told him that I would rather be more directly involved and actually be the one to go out and save women and children. That was about all our phone call consisted of. He told me he would be in contact with me again at some point in the future. A couple weeks went by, and he reached out again. He asked me if I would be willing to come up to the OUR gym and do a training session. I told him yes, absolutely. On October 28th, 2021, I went up to the OUR gym, and it gives a location in Draper, Utah, which is outside of Salt Lake City. It's all pretty much connected. It's in the Salt Lake Valley. When I got to the gym, Coop, aka Matthew Cooper, was waiting for me inside. There were a few other women there as well, and a girl named Redacted. They took her name out. We did some basic training exercises involving self-defense and then covered some awareness tactics. After a certain point, Tim arrived at the gym, and I spoke with him on one-on-one in a back room. When we spoke, he told me briefly about what the organization did and how I could potentially become involved. I expressed to him very clearly my interest in becoming an operator. He told me that it was a hard job and I would have to be willing to do a lot of really potentially dangerous things, that I would see a lot of dark things, as well as be in some very seedy and gross places. He touched briefly on the couple's roofs as well and asked if that was something I would be able to do. I told him that I was an actress and that I thought I could be quite good at being an operator. I then went back out after speaking with him for a bit longer. I continued doing some training with Coop and the other two girls that were at the gym. Tim's son, Blaine, who was an adult, had just returned from his mission, so you guys know, was there also doing some trainings with us. After the self-defense tactics, Tim said he thought we should continue training in a different way later that evening, that we would now take it up a level. They wanted to essentially test how well we would respond to certain uncomfortable or intense situations. He told us about using an app called Signal to communicate and how we had to be very careful with text messages and that we could not talk to anyone about this stuff ever. I signed an NDA as asked and left it there at the gym. I never received any type of copy of this either, which we heard in the previous statement. She didn't either. We were told later that night back at the gym, I believe it was around 10:30 p.m. we were told to meet later that night back at the gym. I believe it was around 10:30 p.m. when I arrived there. Coop and Redacted, Tim and I were all supposed to go out as first team. First team meant that we would be the ones to go inside the strip clubs and try to gather information from people as a part of our training. There were two other men that I recall being there that night. They were on the second team that night. Second team's job was to maintain communications and follow us around discreetly in a vehicle of their own. One of them was Tim's son, Blaine. The other was an older gentleman. I do not remember his name. Yes, he was having his son as a part of this stuff. And yes, that is bothering to me. And I added that in there. That's my opinion. Tim and Blank were partners that night and met up at her apartment. They were supposed to take an Uber to meet us at the OUR gym after getting in character together. They missed their first Uber and we were waiting around for a while. I think we ended up having to just meet them at the first strip club. When at the clubs on our training op, we were supposed to pretend like we did not know them. Second team was supposed to just follow us around and keep in contact via messages on the Signal app. We all had to constantly remain in character even while interacting on the app. Tim and Blank were partners for the couples roost training that night, and Coop, Blank, and I were a throuple for the couples roost. While waiting to head out and start our training, at one point, Tim's son came over to talk with us. He made a comment about how his dad had given him something to take, presumably some type of pill, but I'm unsure of what. He then said he felt high and was kind of laughing about it like it was no big deal. It really concerned me, though. I didn't like that we were supposed to be pretending this was a real life scenario and that he would be out of it. If it was a real situation, potentially out of the country where lives depended on it, then I would be so anxious and scared. I would never be able to trust someone not in their right state of mind. Not to mention it disturbed me and was inappropriate that his dad had given it to him. At some point, I don't remember exactly when, Tim told me that he would sometimes take something in order to deal with the stress and to help him get into character as well as loosen up. I drove with Coop to the strip clubs in Salt Lake City for this training. I don't remember the names of all of the clubs and bars or the order, but I know we went to these clubs for sure. Trails Gentlemen's Club, Exotic Kitty Gentlemen's Club, and the American Bush. We, Coop, Blank, and myself got there and went inside and sat down. I got an energy drink from the bar and we all sat in a booth together. I saw Tim and Blank at the first strip club. Blank was sitting on Tim's lap and they were all over each other playing the part. Tim was in character as Brian and wore these big glasses to disguise himself. Brian is his alter ego of sorts. Again, his code name is Brian Black. The idea behind going to the strip club was for Coop and Tim to see how well I could get information out of people and how I would respond to being in a darker environment around certain types of people. He would point out people in the club and tell me to go try and get their phone number. Oh, sorry. Damn it. Okay. Stop moving. Sorry, y'all. I lost my spot. Oh, stop moving. Okay. Stop it. There. I'm like, what's it doing? Sorry, y'all. Okay. The idea behind going to the strip club was for Coop and Tim to see how I could get information out of people and how I would respond to being in a darker environment around certain types of people. He would point out people in the club and tell me to go to try and either get their phone number, find out where they had lived, or a variety of other questions. I don't remember how many strip clubs and bars we went to exactly, but I think we went to 3 clubs, as well as regular bar at the beginning and then another bar at the end. No alcohol was consumed by anyone that I saw in my throuple. While at these clubs and bars, Coop, Blank, and I would hold hands, sit next to each other, and just generally pretend to be a couple. Nothing overtly inappropriate ever happened while I was training with Coop. I felt like he was in character while still keeping things professional for the most part. If that had been what Tim had wanted for these couples roosters, it wouldn't have bothered me as much. His vision was not that, unfortunately. During all of this, I occasionally saw Tim and Blank. They acted out the couple's ruse as well, just more extreme. Lap sitting, going into private rooms, in the back, etc., dances, etc. At the last club we went to, Blank and Tim were in the back by themselves in a private room. Tim had asked Blank to give him a lap dance. She was supposed to show him that she could do the job. So even though she was hesitant, she did it in order to prove herself. She started giving him a lap dance, but shortly after she started, Tim's son ended up coming inside. He walked into the club's back room and saw Tim and Blank together like that. It made me extremely upset because she had not wanted to do it in the first place and had been reassured multiple times that he would not be coming inside or see them acting out the couple's ruse. She was freaking out a bit and came and told me what had happened. At this point, Tim came out of the back room and talked to me in the club. He had his arms around me and we were chest to chest. We were talking about the couple's ruse and what that would involve, as well as some other things like how his wife was going to kill him if she found out that their son, Blaine, had come into the strip club. I can't remember exactly what else was said in that moment. Shortly after that, we went to one last bar. Tim and Blank did not meet us there. After that place, we decided to call it a night. I drove with Coop and Blank back to OUR gym where we met up with Tim and Blank. At this point, I think it was coming up on 4:00 a.m. Tim told me I did a good job and then talked to us all about the night and how that experience only scratched the surface of what it would actually be like on ops. Tim texted me the next day, October 29th, and said I was a badass and had done an awesome job the night before. He then asked me to come and meet him at OUR American Fork office, south of Salt Lake. And I told him that I would. On November 1st, 2021, I went to the address he sent me. When I arrived, Tim and Matthew Coop, were both there. Tim asked me to come up to his office and speak with him privately. When we sat down, he started talking to me about the couple's ruse and how important it was, telling me exactly how intimate certain scenarios would be. He asked me over and over if I would be willing to act out certain sexual acts, continually getting more explicit. Doing all of this, he made it clear that I could not tell anyone about the things that were happening between us. He made it seem like it could be a life or death situation if I disclosed information, or that I would get into trouble as well. He also made it seem like it could be a life or death situation if I was not willing or able to act out certain sex acts well enough. This is when he started pushing the idea of needing to practice with each other. He started telling me about the other operators and how they had been in situations where they had to be completely naked in rooms in front of each other while getting massages. He told me that the point of the couple's ruse was for you to be able to block for each other, meaning that on ops, you would intercept sexual touches from traffickers and sex workers. He started to become explicit with the situations that had happened or that could happen. He told me that he wanted to train me to be his new primary partner on ops. I would be paid for my time as a contractor with the organization. He said that the operators before me had fallen in love with him, that some had tried to climb into his bed at the safe house, and that they had pushed for relationships with him. He told me that other partners before me had gone a bit crazy and he had to end things. I knew he was married, and he said because of that, he had one rule for the couple's ruse, which was no kissing on the lips. He made it seem that everything else besides maybe full-on penetration would be potentially would be expected. Hold on, I got to read that again. He made it seem that everything else besides maybe full on penetration would be potentially expected. During all this, I felt like everything was a test. Every question or action was proving myself. I had briefly gotten into my personal background with him and explained why helping on operations as an operator was so important to me. Saving women and children truly meant so much to me as a person on a personal level. I wanted to make a difference. I have been a longtime supporter of OUR and knew that's what I wanted my future to involve. Tim then asked me some more personal questions about my life, like if I was married, if I had my own place, and other things of that nature. Tim then became more open about things that could happen or that I could expect on ops, and that I would have to be willing to do those things in order to save children. This included being naked in front of each other, touching each other into... I'm going to just highlight that for you guys. Talking dirty to each other and all sorts of other things of that nature. It was presented to me as if we were in a real life or death situation. Would you be willing to do X, Y, Z? And of course, if it came down to saving women and children, I would be willing to do it. If it was a life or death situation, I would be willing to do whatever I had to do. For him, he said if he was going to get a new partner, he needed to be able to practice. He would say it was really important for us to have intense chemistry. He wanted to know if I was attracted to him and wanted to make sure that he would be able to turn me on. I was really uncomfortable with these questions, obviously, but at that time in my mind, I felt like it was a test. And I didn't want to fail this test. I wanted to become part of the team. Things then proceeded to become physical. It started out with him just resting his hand on my knee. Then he started running his hands across and up my legs. He slowly started to become more comfortable and was running his hands all the way up my thighs. We were sitting in chairs facing each other at this point, and we were no longer talking. I was pretty shocked he was just touching me so intimately. I guess in my mind, I hadn't thought that he would begin practicing then. I guess I had assumed that he wouldn't need or want to practice until at least we were heading on an operation. He moved closer to me and started running his hands along other parts of my body. I remember there was a lot of touching, rubbing, grabbing with his hands across pretty much my entire body. At this point, I remember then being pushed up against the office door. He was up against me and he was sort of grinding his body against mine. It was obvious he had gotten hard. At one point, his thigh was kind of pressed in between my legs and kind of moving up and down against me. There were no kissing on the lips seen, as this was his rule, but there was lots of kissing and mouthing movement around my shoulders and neck and other parts of my body. At this point, I was very uncomfortable, but again, I felt like I could not fail this test. I needed to prove that I could handle what he was doing. If I was not strong enough to handle this and deal with this, then I would not be able to go out and rescue women and children. And that was not an option for me. I wanted so badly to be able to be a part of this organization, but still I was so unbelievably uncomfortable. I didn't understand why we had to be practicing right then. I mean, weren't we on an op? He had only met me one other time before this, and it hadn't made sense to me that he felt like we needed to practice this now. Things were moving so quickly physically, and I hadn't done any sort of other training. It was all happening really fast. He then slowly worked his way down my body until he was kind of kneeling down in front of me and was pulling at my jeans a bit. He then lifted up my shirt and was licking and kissing my stomach and getting lower on my body, still tugging at my jeans as if gauging my reaction. At this point, the door was pushed open from the outside and he had to back up away from me. Coop pushed open the door and came inside and was just looking at us both. Tim kind of just played it off casually. I did not know what to do or say. I felt like Coop knew exactly what was going on. I could just see it on his face. It seemed like he was unhappy with the situation he'd walked in on. He didn't say anything or ask questions, though. Coop wanted to speak to Tim. Then I believe. Coop wanted to speak to Tim then, I believe. And Tim told him that we would be coming downstairs soon. Coop gave us another look and then left and shut the door behind him. We talked for a minute longer and Tim tried to start things physically again, but I had to leave for an appointment and I had used that as an excuse to leave. Tim then began to question me about how I had felt about things. He wanted to know if I'd been turned on during that or if I was still turned on and worked up. He wanted to know if I was attracted to him physically as well, and if he was good looking. I didn't quite know how to answer those questions, so I told him something along the lines of, yeah, you're a handsome man. It all felt like a test to me, so I tried to say what he wanted to hear and react the right way. I kept thinking about how he had a government background and that they had probably taught him these techniques and that I should trust him. He told me that he was really attracted to me. He told me that he wanted to have me do more training and that the next training would be even more intense. He asked if I had a couple days available, possibly in November, to go and do a training weekend with him. He didn't specify if other operators would be going as well. He told me he wanted me to start coming on ops with him soon. He then made it clear that he would want and need practice to practice more physical things like we had just done. I told him that I was an actress and I did this for a profession, so practicing wasn't necessarily needed on my part. I tried to say these things delicately as I did not want to offend him and jeopardize my chances of becoming an operator. He told me that practicing was fun and that it helped keep your relationships more exciting. He said that in order for the couples roost and operations, to be sustainable, it has to be fun. I immediately felt sick to my stomach, dirty, and panicked. I had been warned that I couldn't talk to people about things that had happened. I had signed an NDA and I was really anxious about breaking it. I also didn't want to lose my opportunity to work on operations. I called my friend Blank and told her I was really nervous to speak with her, but I felt like I needed to tell her something. I felt safer talking to her because Tim knew she had been the one to get me involved with him in the organization and hadn't minded me asking her certain questions before. She was the only person he seemed okay with me communicating with about certain things. I knew he would not want me telling her what had just happened between us, though. It was supposed to be, I'm assuming, top secret between us, Tim and myself. I told her I was scared to talk about it over the phone, and she told me that I could come and stop by her house later that evening. Over the phone, though, I did very briefly tell her a few things that had happened in the office with Tim. She seemed pretty shocked and did not think that what had happened was normal or good. But I did not tell her a whole lot because I was really worried at the idea of getting in trouble or messing anything up. She reassured me that it was okay to stand firm about not wanting to perform any more sexual acts with him, even for the sake of practicing for an op. I knew my talent as an actress, and I knew I didn't need to. I went to my appointment, and Tim messaged me asking when I was coming back. I told him I wasn't sure if I'd be able to. He asked again if I would be coming back that night or not. I told him that I would if I could. After my appointment, I went back to the OUR office. At that point, I was resolved on telling him that I would not want or need to practice any more sexual acts with him. I went back, and when I got there, Coop wanted to speak with me. So we sat down in the office, and he asked me some questions about the night before when we had gone to the strip club, I'm assuming, and about how I was feeling about things. I wanted to be honest with him, so I was. I told him that I was worried about Tim a bit. I didn't go into details because I knew that he was friends with Tim, and I was worried about him not being happy with what I said, or it jeopardizing my role in the organization. I did tell him that I felt like Tim needed some help. I told him that I felt like Tim had seen a lot of things that were probably messing with his mental state a bit. I told him that I felt like Tim, as well as the other operators, needed to talk to someone, that they needed to see a therapist and work through some of these issues. I was really worried for Tim's mental state at this point because of the pills, the way he was acting, the things I had heard, and the sexual situation that had happened already without us even being out on an op. Coop did not necessarily disagree with me, but he also didn't agree with me. I then met with Tim again privately, and he started with wanting to practice some more and saying that in the near future, we needed to keep practicing consistently in order to be a secure team together. I didn't want to make him too upset or offend him, but at this point, I just genuinely wanted him to seek help for his mental health's sake. I told him that I was worried about the things he had seen as an operator and hoped that he had someone to talk to. I told him that I was worried about that ops and the things that he had been exposed to were negatively impacting his mental health. I told him for the sake of his wife, Catherine, that I didn't think it was right to practice like that. I told him that us practicing sexual acts was not necessary. I reiterated that as an actress, it was not needed. that I can turn it off and on as needed for the sake of the situation we were in at any given moment. That's what an actress does with all emotions or actions in scenes. He asked at some point something about if I had my own apartment and that going there would be an easier place to get more comfortable with each other. I don't remember at what point in these conversations that was. At the time, since I was going through a divorce, I was living with my family and did not have my own place, which I let him know. I don't remember exactly all the things we continued to talk about, but I think that was pretty much the same as earlier. We then were done. I don't remember the exact timing here, but at some point, Coop talked to Tim and Coop told him what I had said about him potentially seeing a therapist or seeking mental health. Tim then confronted me and said, "Oh, I heard you think I'm crazy. I heard you told Coop that I'm losing my mind, that I'm completely crazy," something along those lines. I told him, "I didn't say I think you are crazy. I just think that seeking therapy for some of the things that you have seen should be a priority, not for only you, but for your entire team." I then threw out some ideas about how to better protect people on ops. I found out that no one is allowed to carry any type of weapon on them and that no one has any tracking devices in their phone or on their persons. I told them my opinion was that for the sake of the safety of their operators, especially the female ones that could potentially then be trafficked, that it was important for them to seek some better safety methods. Up until this point in my conversations with Tim, I had not even really been spoken to much about safety tactics on ops. Really, almost all of what Tim spoke to me about the whole time I was there was the couple's ruse, sexual acts, and all the things I would need to be prepared and willing to do with him. As I was getting ready to leave, they made it seem like they would be in contact in the next couple of days to continue training. I told him that I would be going out of town, but that we could plan something after that. I was prepared to keep working with him and be his new partner on ops if he would stop pushing the sexual practicing aspect and get some professional help. I still wanted this working relationship to work out so that I could make a difference in the world by saving kids. I then left and called and asked Blank if I could stop by her house and speak with her. When I stopped by her house, I told her all the things that had happened and asked her to please not tell anyone that I had told her. I was and still am very much nervous. She reassured me that the things that had happened, she did not think were okay, and that I needed to stand my ground with him and no longer practicing the couple's ruse unless we were actively on an op and it was necessary. I then left her house and went home. I reached out to Tim about when we would be able to meet up next when I was back in town. I was then invited to go to the OUR gala and told them that I would not be able to go. The last I heard from Tim and Coop was November 11th, 2021. Tim told me he had talked to his family and team and would no longer be going on ops. This is something he had said to other women as well after they stood up to him in some way or another. When he realized he couldn't control or manipulate me any further sexually, he no longer wanted me as his partner. Coop called me and told me he would be back in the country soon and would keep training me. A couple weeks went by and I still hadn't heard from them about coming back to do more training and go on an op like planned. I reached out to him a few times to just Coop, and finally he called me back. He made excuses for why he hadn't started my training again, but promised he would reach out in a few weeks. He never did. I tried to reach out once more and got no reply. At this point, I realized they had both shut me out. I can't even tell you how disappointed I was. I wanted to make a difference so bad. I had put so much hope into this new future. I had anticipated being paid for this new venture, but more than that, I would have been able to impact a positive change. To have that taken away because I didn't want to practice sexual things and keep being physical with Tim hurt. All right, we got to take a break here. How's everybody doing? How y'all doing? Everybody hanging in there okay? We're only through 2 of them. And they get worse. The couple in the second lawsuit, honestly. Oh yeah, Lynn Packer. I highly, highly suggest Lynn Packer. John Dylan is really hard for a lot of people that aren't Mormon to follow. He does kind of speak over people's heads a lot, not intentionally, but it's very deep, like history Mormon wise. But John's amazing too. John Dylan is amazing. That's Mormon Stories podcast, and Lynn Packer is absolutely probably my favorite. Damian Moore with American Crime Journal is incredible too. Whew, this is a lot. This is a lot. Do you guys mind if I go step outside for a minute and we just talk and kind of decompress for a minute while I smoke a cigarette? We've got 3 more to get through, and this is a lot. Are you guys okay with me doing that? If you are, I would appreciate doing that. Yeah, the manipulation that I'm seeing in these and the ways that they attempted to cover this up and like manipulate these people honestly just hurts my heart. It hurts my heart to hear this stuff. We'll go downstairs. Okay. You guys are okay with that? Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we need a break for a second because this is intense. I'm going to set you guys here for a moment right quick. Let me stop my camera right quick. Entertain yourselves for a minute. You want me to put some music on for you guys for a second? Oh, why? Why do people have to be so terrible? Like that's that's Heel's background or intro or whatever. That is what that is. Hold on, we'll play this one. No, that's not what we're gonna play. No, that's not one either. Feeling Sleazy. We'll play that one for a second. I'll be right back, y'all. I just gotta step away for a moment and all right, we're good. Let's go back outside. They get worse and worse as we go to. I hate to say that, but the statements, the couple statement in the second lawsuit is extreme. Like it is. And these 5 victims, I think all but one of these victims is LDS. Some disco on. I should have. And I'm sorry, I have to say this, but I don't find him attractive at all. I don't know. He's just one of those ones that I personally, though, that's not the type of he just has a kind of a skeezy way about him, to be honest, in my opinion again, but I just feel it. I feel gross reading this. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I wonder if the men feel different than the women too about it. I don't know. True crime. There. I'll let you interpret what you think about that, but there's some very close allegations with that, in my opinion. However, I'm not going to put those words into it. I'll let you kind of make up your opinion of that. It gets worse as it goes, and we've got a lot to go. Yeah. Yeah. Dark Horse, I'm so sorry about what you've been through. I'm really sorry. The victims deserve a voice. They really deserve a voice. And they deserve, he was given this platform to harm these people and people around him. Like, I think for me, it's shocking. One thing I will tell you about all of this is knowing how many other people were involved in this and never said anything. If these allegations are factual and these people were all involved, how did they let it go on for so long? And these people, like Coop, I don't know if he left OUR to go with Tim to the Spear Fund, but they were close buddies for a long time. Yeah, and Yuli, one thing, speaking of gym socks, this is what made me think of that. They talk a lot about him pleasuring himself in some of this, or claiming that he pleasured himself. I think I started here on the victim statements because by the time we get to the second lawsuit is a way, way worse. In my opinion, the statements are, it really took me back reading through them. I'll let you guys interpret what you want to out of them, but just to see how they use their influence and power and the women's vulnerability, to me, I think is the worst part, especially knowing like the first one was a survivor. The second one obviously had some stuff going on too. Right? Why is he so concerned about them being physically attracted to him? And you notice how he like tells one of them that him and his wife are having issues. Then he tells another one that his wife is such a saint, she doesn't ask questions. Autumn, because people, I don't think it will, because it's got a lot of top political players and a lot of wealthy people involved. And you got to remember, Glenn Beck owns a media company and has a lot of money. Tony Robbins has a lot of wealth. You have a lot of people in power in these positions. And unfortunately, they kind of control mainstream media. Nancy Grace. I'm not a fan of Nancy Grace, but yeah, you would think. Only ones that are talking about it as us YouTubers. Well, there is a little bit here and there. You get a blurb here and there of, oh, so and so says this or so and so says that, but it's, yeah, right. Oh, the numbers on the inflation of trafficking that they did is astounding. They inflated those numbers so high. We can sit out here, actually. We can, here, I'll pull it back up and we can continue reading through it while I smoke. I can multitask. Okay, now we're going to get into the third victim statement. This is MK. Oh, okay. Trigger warning again, because they only get worse as we go, y'all. Like, I can't say that they're going to get better. You're going to feel better about it. Again, you're open for interpretation. These are allegations. These are in a civil suit. At this point in time, I do not know the status of a criminal investigation. If there is one, it would have to be federal, I'm assuming, because the Utah AG's office claims that they're conflicted out. However, in my opinion, Sean Reyes needs to be removed from office like yesterday. But major trigger warning. Tony Robbins is still quiet. Yep, Tony Robbins and his team won't give a statement on it either. I've reached out. Yeah, this is a civil lawsuit because when they tried, so Tim was removed from OUR before the release of the film, and he was set up with the Spear Fund and a huge, basically, severance package, like massive severance package to kind of push this under the rug. But he claims that he resigned from OUR. However, he was sent a termination letter from OUR because of these allegations. A criminal investigation was started with Davis County into the fraud that's been alleged from OUR and Tim Ballard. However, it was closed out. But you got to remember the players in this. Davis County attorney is kind of overseen by Sean Reyes. Like there's a lot of connecting factors. You got NDAs, deleted evidence, but some of these do have some stuff in them, and I'm assuming that there is a way that they're going to be able to get some of this back. Okay, y'all, I'm switching screens now, so I won't be. There is more people coming forward, and I am really, really. Here's my problem with this, y'all. These are the American victims. Let me say that again. Let me turn my camera on and say that again, loud and clear. I'm laying on my little love seat out here outside because now I'm like, this is a lot. So sorry about the wonderful angle of my double chins, but this is the American victims. Think of all the countries, like my fly strip, all the countries that he went to. They claim 20 to 30 countries that they've been in. These are the American women that potentially were victimized by him and others. Think about the other women in the other countries. I can't say for sure that there are, but people that behave like this to this extent, in my opinion, again, my opinion, don't just stop. Yeah, 20 to 30 countries is what they claim. Yeah, crazy. I don't know. Okay, I'm off of this. Of course, Dark Horse. True crime, they sign NDAs, but they do not know, they don't have copies of the NDAs of that they even signed. So Autumn, he asked for younger girls. In the first statement, she mentioned that he did ask for younger girls. So I don't really know. And I would like to know how young the girl was that came in, that the supposed trafficker brought in that one time. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Further in. I've known Tim for a few years, working as a makeup artist on multiple production sites. Okay. It took a different turn 1 year ago while we were on set for OUR when I was asked to potentially go on a mission with OUR. Tim was very persistent in having me on his team, and I was excited to learn more about what a mission entailed. I asked if it was a paid job, and he said I would be compensated and paid to go. After giving him my number and exchanging multiple text messages, I decided to meet with him, and he took me into a private room where the door was locked behind me. Okay. I forgot where this started out. It was a bit sketchy, but I went along with it because it seemed like an interview at first. Then he sat down across from me and said I needed to prove that we had a strong enough connection in order to be believable and potentially hired as his girlfriend for the mission coming up, which would be about 2 months later. So I wasn't sure what to do. He stared at me and said, "You can't touch me, but he stared at me and said, "You can't touch me, but need to show me what you can do to basically turn me on enough that he would want to have sex with me." Then we were interrupted, and his bodyguard said he had to leave. Tim and I got close in proximity a few times, but I felt very confused about what the meeting was about or what exactly he needed to do. He was evasive with explaining and wanted me to do the work and come up with the ideas in the room to connect with him. After about 45 minutes in his office and talking about everything in detail, he made me feel like I passed the test, but I didn't know what it meant going forward. I wanted to support the cause, so I signed an NDA before entering the private room, and there was a lot of talk and anticipation about different scenarios that could potentially happen if I was on a mission with him. I left and waited to hear from him again. In his text messages to me, he was persistent and aggressive and very forward with me being involved. He wanted me on board and to say yes to being okay with the following scenarios, including if we were in a hot tub together, he would have to touch me under the water so they would believe we were into each other, which meant under my swimsuit. Potentially, we would have to shower together. I would have to have an orgasm if needed for them to hear it or fake it. I would have to turn him on enough that he'd want to have sex with me when we got back to the hotel. I'd be his girlfriend the entire trip, including in the airport and back, that people had to believe us the entire time that we were together. We met on multiple occasions, and he would ask if I could get together or see him after, but unfortunately, I always had early morning call times and usually couldn't go along with him. Hold on, y'all. My phone's ringing. Okay, just 1 second. Pause. It's the oldest. Give me a second. Okay, sorry. Hold on. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, where did I leave off? I'm going to read this again. We met on multiple occasions, and he would ask if I could get together or see him after, but fortunately, I always had early morning call times and usually couldn't go along with him. The man he talked me into meeting at the hotel with other OUR members, the man he talked me into meeting at the hotel with our other OUR members for the official training. But when I asked what to attend when I arrived, end up didn't end up being training at all. It was more club scenes and practice sessions, and I'm not sure what else went on because it was very private. I was told that I'd be paid that weekend, but never got any compensation from OUR, and I met Tim at my hotel room upon his request, where I did another audition to see if I was eligible. So this time he said to show me what I was willing to do or how far I was willing to go without physical contact. So I felt required to turn him on or give him a show by taking my clothes off into my underwear, and that and he told me to say fuck me as I looked in his eyes. He watched me on the chair and I felt very uncomfortable. I've never said that word out loud before, but he said it was necessary. After a long while with his arms around me, he said he was too turned on and that we should go to the gym together. I declined. I never saw him again, and he later told me he couldn't do missions anymore because he was too well known. That's when it was confirmed to me that I had been used and played. It was all for his enjoyment. While I was in the middle of so much with work as a makeup artist and barely even keeping up with my insanely busy schedule, Tim decided to try and convince me to come with him on a mission. But instead, there was no mission. I was disappointed that I was treated like an object and even more upset that it was all for his entertainment and pleasure. For a year, I sat in silence, knowing my story wouldn't matter. But now maybe it will make a difference. After getting to the hotel at midnight, I was asked to sign another NDA and was told we would go clubbing that night as a prep for the mission. He stayed in my room for about an hour and I declined because I was much too tired. He stayed in my hotel room and asked me multiple times if I was recording him and if I was excited to be a part of this. I was in my pajamas and didn't understand what was going on or why he was asking so many questions at 1 in the morning. He said this was all private and nobody could hear about anything or it would be used against me. I was told the next day to go to training, but there wasn't any training to go to. I basically left feeling depleted and used and completely confused. I was willing to go until I realized the truth about his project. I felt devalued after that day. He basically told me in a few hold on. Sorry, cats. He basically told me in a few texts that he didn't need me anymore, but if I still wanted to go on a mission, I could reach out to someone else. I didn't give him what he wanted. Other facts. Tim asked me to tattoo him up and go to a strip club with him. I declined. We met on multiple occasions and made me feel important by telling me I was perfect for the job. He was polite and would open my door, and give me compliments. He would often check on me because I was so busy and even sick and working so much. I rarely had time to message him back because I was double and triple booked on other projects. He sent links and kept inquiring about the mission for me to be on board with him. He made it all sound very exciting. After all the meetings and the time taken out of my schedule, I was thrown away like a piece of trash. I've been attending therapy for the past year to understand the situation and regain my confidence and feel safe. It has been very hard for me to wrap my head around what happened to me when I trusted someone like Tim, who talked about saving innocent lives, when in reality I felt like he was taking advantage of me and had other intentions for me. I was also disappointed with the OUR Foundation and how they didn't do anything to stop him. Okay, so that's the 3rd. Keep going. All right. Here we go. I was introduced to Tim Ballard by my friend client CL. She is, I believe, a part owner in a local business establishment. She was pre-screening the movie The Sound of Freedom for OUR and Tim Ballard. One day when I was doing her hair, she told me about this amazing organization that helps save women and children from sex traffickers. She proceeded to tell me stories about how awful the world of sex trafficking is and what this organization was doing to help save children around the world. Gail was doing the scheduling for these premieres. She asked me if I wanted to go on one of the pre-screenings. I said, yes, that sounds awesome. She gave me some dates and I chose one. After the movie, Tim was there answering some questions. I told CL that if he really was a famous guy, then he needed a new hairstyle. When she ran into him, she told him that she had a great hairstylist. I think you should try her out. He had his assistant reach out to me. I went to a house in Saratoga Springs. It was on October 24th, 2021. Apparently, Tim was doing some sort of therapy that he had to do for 3 days in a row. He was on his 3rd day and he had been away from his family and friends. Only Catherine, his wife, could be there. He couldn't have his phone or anything until the end of the 3 days, which would have been that night. So I had been communicating with his assistant and Dimitri, who was his bodyguard, about a time and place where to meet so that I could cut and color Tim's hair. When I showed up to the house in Saratoga Springs, which was not his house, I guess it was just a house where he was doing his therapy, his wife, Catherine, opened the door. She let me in, and Tim was coming down the stairs. He looked like he had just woke up. He and Catherine were talking about what they wanted to do with his hair. He was saying that he wanted to have it a more edgier look. She did not want that. She didn't want him to color his hair more blonde, which is what he wanted. I couldn't really agree. So she just said, do whatever you want, and left, and told me that his assistant would be there soon. When she left, he began to tell me that Catherine doesn't like his hair light because it reminds her of when he would be on operations and it made her uncomfortable and she did not like that. So we kind of talked about how there are different levels of light colors that he could have, and maybe in the past it looked like a beach boy blonde. So we could do a more of a natural blonde and maybe she would like that better. So we agreed and I started cutting his hair first. We did that. Then as I started applying the lightener, Tim started asking me questions. He asked what I knew about OUR. I said I didn't know much except for what CL had told me, nothing about his company or him for that matter. He asked what I did know about him or if I had even heard his name with the LDS church. And I said no. He replied with, I'm actually a big deal. I said, oh yeah, tell me why. That is when he started to tell me he had written quite a few books on the new and everlasting covenant. He said that he is good friends with many apostles, including Elder Ballard, and that he knows President Trump personally. He started telling me a lot more about what OUR does. He asked me how I felt about it. I told him I was very impressed and that it's a very noble cause and that I really admired him and what he was doing. He then asked if I would ever want to be involved in a cause like that, and I said, of course. He asked what position I would like to be involved in, and I said, I don't know. I never thought about it, but it sounds amazing. He then asked me how I would feel about going on an operation with him, and I asked him what he meant. That's when he started telling me about a couples ruse. Tim said that the way they had been getting intel on ops had worked for a while, but it wasn't working anymore. So they had started realizing what was happening and they needed a new tactic. Tim said he had been praying about it and he came up with a couple's ruse, that it had been sanctioned by Elder Ballard, again, president of the Quorum of the 12, no relation to Tim, and that God told him to do it. He said that it was a difficult job. We had to act like a couple. We had to be very sexual with one another, but it was all for the benefit of saving children. He said that God knew our hearts and our souls and that what we were wanting to accomplish, which was only to help the children. He asked me how I felt about it and if I thought I could do anything like that. I felt special that he was asking me. I felt important to be asked to do such amazing, important work. I said, of course, I would want to do that. He then began to tell me that his last operator, who was his partner, had fallen in love with him. And before any lines were ever crossed, she had told him and decided to quit. He said he was about to do interviews with about 20 different women to be his new partner, but if I was willing to train for a little bit and see if it worked out, he would like me to be his new partner. He said he already felt very comfortable with me. I told him, yes, so that sounds amazing. He asked when he could meet me with me so I could sign an NDA. I said, anytime, let's figure it out. He said, how about tonight? I said, okay. Hold on, y'all. Kenzie's home. Just a minute. You have RA. You guys, I gotta go. I'm sorry to do this. Kenzie needs me. She just got officially diagnosed with RA. Sorry, y'all. I've got to stop this one. We're gonna have to redo number 4 in the next live stream, but I need to go be with Kenzie right quick. She's breaking down. So sorry, y'all. I don't mean to cut this off, but she needs me right now. She's a wreck. So her Hashimoto's is extremely high. She just officially got diagnosed with RA, which is not shocking, but there's other stuff going on too with her health, and it's nonstop shit. Like, anyways, I'm really sorry, y'all. I've got to be there for my kid though. So I will be back. Maybe I'll finish it this afternoon. If she's in a better place, I will come back and finish this. I'm sorry. The worst thing to interrupt to is a victim's impact statement because this is so important, but family comes first. So that's where I'm at. So yeah, she needs her mama right now. So I will be back and we will start back over with number 4 and continue on from there. We'll do a part 2 of the victim statements and then we'll get into the second lawsuit. I promise you guys, I'm sorry it's been so all over the place, but she needs her mama. So I will talk to you guys after a while. Thank you guys for all being here and I will see you guys soon.